Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Taylor Roberts from alternative metal band Riding with Killers.
What's up, Randy? Great to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I've been looking forward to getting you on the show, so I'm glad you said yes.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Of course. I'm glad we found some time to make it happen. The schedule has been absolutely bonkers lately, but in the best way possible. Like it's been really good. Like I'm definitely tired most of the time, but like I'm really happy with how things are going.
Allegiance to the corporate throne. Shut your mouth and be a good drone. Keep me standing on my tippy toes. Work all day with nothing to show. Train me well, dress me up. Here's the script. A good boy won't speak up. This is great. This is fine. This is fate until I step out of line. It's my fault, so you say. Shouldn't we talk? It doesn't matter.
Okay, I just wanted to start out by digging into some history. What got you into playing guitar? What age did you start? Was there a band or a song or something that inspired you to start playing guitar?
Yeah, so I I was on alto saxophone from age 7 till about 10. And that was about the time that I had switched over to St. James Elementary. I became close friends with a kid named Caleb, and his parents were really into, you know, rock, alternative rock, new metal, classic metal, Ozzy, Corn, Taproot, and a bunch of other bands, and they introduced me basically to the whole new metal genre, and I knew that I really liked it, but when they showed me Between Angels and Insects by Papa Roach, I heard that intro guitar riff, and I like my ear, I was like, oh, whoa, hold, rewind. And I just that riff to this day, that whole record to this day, like from songwriting to mixing and mastering to just everything, I feel like that record is perfect. But like that riff, just it stuck in my head, and that I was like, wait, how do I make that? How do I make that sound? How do I do that? What's it gonna take for me to do that? I need to learn how to play this. And then I just started begging my mom for a guitar. And then on Christmas, my 10th Christmas, I forget the actual year. I guess that would have been 99. I got a blue Strat knockoff. It was not, but it was a great guitar. Like I played the shit out of that guitar. But that's really what got me into it was Papa Roach and the song Between Angels and Insects, the short version.
Okay. Did you take any lessons or are you self-taught?
So I took lessons. I started with a guy, a really good dude named James Gillies at Music Go Round in Edgewater Village in Biloxi. And then after that, I ended up switching over to David Knorr over at Pinkston's Music, where I would eventually start working at the age of 17 till I was 27. Spent a lot of time under the roof at Pinkston's, but Dave was my teacher for about 6 years, something like that. And then I just kind of went off on my own and kind of started learning from there. I have been kicking around jumping back in lessons, actually, though. Now that you bring that up, I've been in vocal lessons, and I've really been enjoying that, and just learning about my instrument here. And it's been nice to be back in that learning chair, and I really feel like I would like to find another guitar teacher at some point. Um, someone I could sit down with and jam and get better at. But yeah, so half and half.
Um, like when you do go find a new guitar teacher and stuff, and they start teaching you stuff, it like sometimes it branches off into other things where you might have not have thought about it before, but it starts like a spark, you know?
For sure, and I'm feeling that spark with my vocal coach, Ryan Arini. Like it just makes me feel like I'm a kid again, going to those guitar lessons. But now it's like I'm training my voice to make sure that, with the way things are going with the band, I probably need to be able to sing pretty consistently night after night, between a 30 and 45-minute set. And I need to not, have my voice go out after day 2 or day 3. So um, I've really been, taking super good care of my voice, and working on switching some things around in my life. But I'm excited to see what road it takes me down, because I mean, like I don't sit around and sing rock songs. I'm starting to listen to opera. I'm starting to do more like 80s, like Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels. That is a fun song to sing. It's a great, like, because you get to practice so many different aspects of singing, from falsetto to belting to, head voice and chest voice, and then low, different dynamics with volume. So it's really made me start and what you're saying, like I've started listening to more music. I don't listen to a lot of rock music. Like I listen to like Leon Bridges, or I'm looking at more pop artists or indie artists, or stuff that kind of, like folk and indie, but as well as like EDM and stuff like that. And it's making me explore different parts of my voice, and I've really been liking that I'm also finding new artists because of that. And like you said, that just opens up a whole new world and of inspiration and ideas and thoughts.
So the voice teacher is like trying to get you to have control of it, of your voice.
Yes, that as well as and I've talked about this a lot, and I should probably talk about it some more. But I caused myself an inguinal hernia when I was recording the vocals for Hostility, and specifically, it's that middle section right before the chorus where I just take it super high vocally, and like I hit the note in studio. But the problem is that I was not pushing my air correctly. I was not achieving notes correctly. I was getting to notes, but I was doing it the wrong way, and clearly I was straining too hard to where I injured myself. And that was one of the worst recoveries I've ever dealt with in my entire life. But he's essentially teaching me, ways to warm up my voice, clear out any phlegm, as well as, these exercises to where I'm learning about breath control. I'm learning how to take proper breaths, and then as well as utilize those breaths properly. Um, and don't get me wrong, it's not like I could go to the Met and sing an opera song right now, or, whatever. But it's nice to see that each time he and I get together, I'm doing things that I couldn't really do the first lesson, and I'm getting through more exercises without like cracking, or hitting a vocal stop and then jumping back in. So he's helping me work with my longevity, I would say, as well as just the proper techniques to take care of my voice. Because my overall goal, like I want to be doing this 20, 30 years from now. Like a lot of my heroes are like Korn's about to play their 30th anniversary, of self-titled, and then Slipknot has the 25th anniversary of self-titled, and like they're still killing it. Their voices are all changing, of course, that happens with age, but like it's still a great show. The emotion still gets across, and that's what I really hope to have, whenever I reach my late 40s and 50s and stuff. I want to still be able to do the thing. So he's really guiding me down a wonderful path.
And like the voice is like a muscle. If you have to like work it out, like a sports star would do exercises and stuff so they don't like sprain their knee or something. That's something that you have to work at.
Oh, for sure. And as well as try not to piss my neighbors off upstairs while I'm just like, ah, and I do running scales and everything. But it's not too bad. But yeah, man, it's a daily thing. I've got daily exercises that I try to run through and warm ups and things like that. And then if I've got a long drive, like I'm doing vocal stuff. So sometimes when I'm painting, I'm trying to paint while I'm singing, and that's another thing I'm trying to get good at is, because you look at all these other vocalists out there, and I'm like Pink and even Beyonce. I'm sure you've heard the stories of Beyonce. I think it was her mom or somebody was making her run while singing her songs, and Pink, like, she'll have her kids stand on her stomach, and she'll sing. Because I mean, I don't know if you're big into her or not, but with her live show, have you seen those artists they'll wrap like bows, or like not bows, but like curtains or whatever around their arms or legs, and they'll like go 20-30 feet up in the air and spin around. Like, she does that at her show, and she fucking sings her ass off while doing it, and it's amazing, and it's like, dude, not that I think that I want to one day hang from cables and shit and fly around and sing, but it's very inspiring to see people doing things of that caliber and still have like the voice that Pink has, because like she was one of my favorite female pop stars from like the late 90s, early 2000s. It was like Britney, Christina, and Pink, and I mean, Britney's hometown girl, so all the love to her. But like, um, Pink's voice, just like that raspy, bluesy, just like something about her voice always caught my attention. And to know that she's still kicking it and killing it 25 years later and doing that on top of it, it's like, okay, I should probably give my voice attention daily if I want to even be anywhere near something like that.
Over the years, you've probably been in a whole bunch of bands growing up. How did that help you form Riding with Killers by being in all those bands and stuff?
Well, so the one, I mean, I was really, I would say, in two bands. My high school band when I was like 14, 15. Um, and then that was like maybe a year and a half. Like, I was the only one who wanted to really do it. But towards the end of my high school career, that's when I started Catharsis. And I was able to get that band in front of 10,000 people at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum, opening for Avenged Sevenfold and Atreyu and Bullet for My Valentine in 2008. So, got to play a show with the Rev while he was still alive, and I was 18 at the time. So I started seeing little glimpses of what it could be. And I was like, okay, I've got a taste for it. And then, I was making really good moves to the point of where I just got really good at networking with that band. And I was able to land us on the same management roster with Taproot. And that's how we got to go on our first, like, we had done regional tours before that, figuring out ourselves. I would send out emails. I did all the, the booking. I talked to radio, talked to management, talked to blah, 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 art, like, I basically kind of started figuring out a lot of that on my own, because I was always the guy that when I had a record, physical CD, I still love buying those, because my car has a CD player, thank God. Um, but I always read the liner notes. Like I've actually become friends with people that I've read in the liner notes, like and seen in like DVDs and stuff, like doing interviews, like um I don't know. I've always kind of been nerdy and I guess in depth when it comes to that, and I really like talking with people. So I kind of had a good idea, and then once we got into management, I and I still have a great personal relationship with him. But Eric Baker, he taught me a lot, like, and he gave me a lot of really good insight. He got a lot of good stuff done for me when we were under his management. And he and I are about to start working together again 10 years later on some radio. And we'll touch on that in a bit. And then, I had guys like Scott Fox, Kenny Vest, Greg Sutton, Anthony Prophet, Big Rick. I got to meet a lot of really awesome DJs around the country when I started really touring, and I just I networked really well, man. I made friends with all these people, and I still talk to them. I still keep up with them, and like, it wasn't just, hey man, what can you do for me? It's, hey man, how are you? Like, I had so much fun when we came and played your city, and when we hung out and we had a drink together and we talked for like 2.5 fucking hours. Um, I've been very lucky to get introduced to a lot of great people, and when I realized things weren't working. So Catharsis ended up becoming another band, Wildfire. We rebranded. Honestly, a bad idea, but it is what it is. And once we did that, and I basically rebuilt that band from the ground up and got us back in the circuit and playing bigger shows and doing this, that, and the other. And then when I realized that things weren't actually working the way that I had thought they would, that's when I decided to leave the band, because I knew that if I stayed, it would turn into me doing the same things over and over, and I would blink. 20 years would have gone by, and I wouldn't be where I wanted to be. And so I that's when I decided to branch out on my own, and I had a lot of good people in my corner when I decided to jump out. I started recording a couple songs, and then we had like program drums. I called Dave Coughlin, and I was like, hey man, do you want to record these? And we just ended up having a really long talk. And he was like, look, man, like, I know that it really hurts right now that you can't be yourself anymore. Because, I had to stop doing everything for a really long time. Like, I quit my band in mid 2018, and they were scattered really cool shows starting in like 2022, but it was like one show, two shows a year kind of a thing, because I was still writing, I was still recording. So he basically was like, look man, like, and this is, I love this analogy, but it was like, you got to work in the background. And when you want to dig in, to really dig back in, do you want to start with a garden shovel, or do you want to go construct a backhoe and excavator in the background? And then when you start digging in, it's like, okay, now we're making craters. So I mean, it's a combination of just the way that I've always viewed things and the way that I've always approached things, to having someone give me really good advice on working in the background. And that was kind of the way I wanted to approach this band, instead of like, okay, well, I'm going to try to put something out that's not really able to stand or walk. It's like, no, even though it's going to hurt, it's going to suck, just take a step back, get in the studio, do the thing, and then when the time is right, the time is right. So I would say, like I said, just a combination of good people, bad people, and instinct.
How did you come up with the name for the band?
So I ended up meeting a really good friend of mine named Shane. on the movie set of The Dirt, the Motley Crue Netflix movie. I got to be an extra, which was a lot of fun. We did that at UNO Lakefront in New Orleans, and he and I just we started talking, and they forgot to cover up all my tattoos, by the way, which I thought was hilarious because he's got full sleeves, and he was like, "Bro, why aren't your tattoos covered?" And I was like, "I don't know. Nobody said shit to me." And like they literally put makeup on all of his arms, and it looked like he had just normal skin, no tattoos. It was hilarious. It looked really great too. It was nuts how good they were. But we basically hit it off. We exchanged numbers, and then a few days later, he's like, "Hey, bro, do you want to come make $2,000? And for a week's worth of work, and I'll pay for flight, hotel, food. You ain't got to pay for nothing. I just need, if you come with me, you got to work." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that." I at that point I had never made $2,000 in a week. And as we're getting ready to do this trip, he was like, "We're gonna wrap houseboats," and he didn't tell me anything other than that. And I was like, "What do you mean we're gonna wrap houseboats with what? What are you talking about?" And then, so I already kind of had some questions about that. And then he basically was like, "All right, we're gonna take a train there now." And I was like, "What? No, we're not gonna take a train. We're gonna drive there. I'm gonna get a company vehicle." "No, I got to get this truck from my parents' house in Hattiesburg, and then we're going to drive all the way up there." And I was like, "Okay, this is starting to get fucking strange." And I realized that we had a common friend named Matt in New Orleans, and I called him up, and I was like, "Yo, dude, is Shane cool, or like is he gonna like try to fucking kill me, and like I'm gonna be scattered in like 6 trash bags on the highway to Atlanta?" And he just started laughing, like I had to pull my head away from the phone. He was like, "Dude, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard." He was like, "Just go with Shane, he's good people." And I was like, "All right, cool." And on the drive up, he started messing with me about it. He's like, "Yeah, dude, he was like, I heard you called on me, and I was gonna say that you were part of this drug ring that you couldn't get out of, and blah 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 blah." And we had a big laugh about it, and it turned out to be one of the coolest weeks of my life. I met some amazing people. We wrapped houseboats for Margaritaville, and there was like a houseboat community right next door, and like got high and drunk with those dudes after work. Like some of the best weed I've ever smoked, and some of the best rum I've ever drank. Thank you, Mr. Greg Hayes. Hope you're doing well, bro. And when we left, I was just kind of reflecting on the week, and how paranoid I had been. But like I'm glad that I was cautious, because like you got to be cautious in today's world, I would say. But the name Riding with Killers popped in my head, and I was like, "Huh, that's kind of interesting." I was like, I can acronym it at that point, because a good acronym on a band name is always fun. Um, and I was like, well, if I do this, I could incorporate movie horror villains or serial killers, or whatever. Like, I haven't actually done any of that yet, but I was like, it made me think. It made my gears turn. I was like, this sounds like something I could have fun with when it comes to marketing or artwork or even song content, or maybe one day I make a graphic novel based on the name. Like there's because I'm a huge comic book nerd, and I love graphic novels, and it would be amazing to make something like that one day. Kind of like Starset, they had their comic that they did with Marvel. Like that would be cool to do that with me one day. But I just, it sounded like something I could really have fun with. And it was an easy name to pronounce. Um, and the biggest thing of all is that after scouring the interwebs from front to back, and yes, I went through every square inch of the internet, saw some really fucked up things, but I found my way back, and there was not a single entity in the world called Riding with Killers that has ever existed until me. And I was like, that's special, because I'm sure you understand, like, trying to find a band name is the hardest shit in the world. And then when you're like, man, I fucking got it, we got it, there's like 70 other bands across the country between a span of 30 fucking years that had that same idea. And it was like, fuck. So I was like, all right, cool, like, this is an interesting name. And then the logo that we currently use, Andy from We Came as Romans designed that. And I hit him up and I was like, look, like, I want to acronym this, and I'm essentially looking for my Slipknot S, or like Mudvayne had the Mudagram, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these bands, they had that insignia. And I remember I was like, Slipknot S, but I want to do that with RWK. And then what he sent me back, it was like, and I don't know. So yeah, I thought I was gonna get murdered one time, and that's where I came up with the name.
Well, at least you got like a plot if you wanted to start it.
And that's what I'm saying, man. There's way too many doors that are surrounding this band. So that's why I was like, yeah, that's the name. Let's go with it.
Okay. What city are you based out of?
So I'm just gonna say Detroit, Michigan. I'm in a little city within a city of Detroit called Hamtramck, which I absolutely love. But Detroit, I could be to downtown in like 8 minutes.
Okay. I wanted to dig into your album Full Circle.
Yeah, let's go.
The first song I want to talk about is What Comes Next. And at the beginning of the song, you have Pledge Allegiance to the Corporate Throne, Shut Your Mouth, and Be a Good Drone. Um, it goes on to say, Keep standing on my tippy toes, work all day with nothing to show. I was just wondering a little bit about that. Is that a job that you had?
Oh yeah, for fucking sure. 100%. I was working at Sweetwater Sound, of all places. And you would think for a guy like me that it would be fucking heaven, and it was not. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't have great experiences and didn't make great friends and didn't have, because I totally fucking did. I feel like I utilized that job the correct way. I learned about my craft. I expanded my knowledge on my craft. I got to learn and play with toys that were never available to me in my hometown in Gulfport, Mississippi. We just didn't have the market to have a fucking $3,000 Neve, preamp, or Shelford like, we didn't have that. We couldn't facilitate that, especially after Hurricane Katrina. So and then that, honestly, that led me to getting endorsed with Gibson, because I met my rep, um, my former rep, I should say. But I met him doing a video for Sweetwater on the 2019 Gibson collection. But I mean, dude, it was aside from all the that is cool stuff, but at the root of it all, it was very soul sucking, because I was not playing my guitar when I came home from work. I wanted nothing to do with music, and I was essentially a glorified telemarketer. Like, I wasn't working a sales floor. I was basically calling people, and like, that's crushing, dude. Like, cause dude, nobody wants to just, hey man, dude, Sweetwater, spend some money, me. And like, there were so many, like, dude, I got emails back, go fuck yourself, fuck you, like, don't call, I'm sleeping, eat a dick, like, worked with some of the shittiest people I've ever. And funny enough, one of the worst customers I ever had was a church in New Jersey. Fuck you guys if you ever watch this. Um, like, just, and they're supposed to be all godly, but like, they were the meanest fucking people I've ever dealt with. And it was just, there were too many cons. And the biggest con of all was I did not want to play my guitar that much, and it was hard for me to go back and forth to Detroit, you know, to record and write, because that's where Dave and Tim and Mark from Lansbury Lane were, and that's where we did most of that record. But I didn't enjoy the corporate lifestyle. It was not for me. I was gaining weight again. I've had a couple different weight loss journeys, and I had done really well. And then when I went to Sweetwater, like I I started looking at photos of myself, and I was like, oh shit, I look like my grandpa. And I love my grandpa, but like he's a big guy and has some, you know, health issues, and that's not what I want for myself. And I saw myself turning back into a former version of me being there, and I felt trapped. And I was just so unhappy, man. So unhappy. And the day that I broke free and quit, I was like, confetti, please. Like someone make me a congratulations banner. Like, you know, it's, and if you are looking for that type of environment, it's the perfect job for you, you know. But for me, who wants to be active and on the road and pursuing my art and my passion and really giving it the time it deserves, that wasn't it, man. Because you know, you got to leave the house at 6 in the morning. You got to clock in for unpaid meetings, which was great. You know, like get there 2 hours before your shift actually starts so you can sit there like dead asleep, needing coffee and at least another 2 hours of sleep. Um, and it was just, you were there 13 hours a day and just sitting staring at a computer screen, and everybody is so by the fucking books. And I got in trouble one time because I said fuck on the phone whilst talking to a customer who I've known for years who runs a music venue. And I got called into a manager's meeting, and they were like, oh well, your language. And I'm like, have you guys ever like hung out with musicians or like been around a live music venue? Because this is how we fucking talk. You know, it's not like and it was so dumb. So just stupid little things like that. You couldn't make jokes. Everyone got like I don't know. It was just very uptight, and it wasn't for me. I'm not a corporate guy. I'm just not. So that's, yeah. Who gets a cease and desist letter to, this weekend from Sweetwater? You motherfucker.
Take down that video now.
Allegiance to the corporate throne. Shut your mouth and be a good drone. Keep me sitting on my tippy toes. Work all day with nothing to show. What comes next? What comes next for me and you? What comes next? I'm dying to. What comes next? What comes next for me and you? What comes next? I'm talking to you.
Next song is Novelty, and I looked up the definition of this song, and it says a cheap, unusual object often given as a present. And some of the lyrics relate to that, and it sounds like there's like a relationship going on, but you're only good when a girl don't got nothing else to do.
That one, I mean, you basically hit the nail on the head. And just to kind of expand upon that, you know, there was a few relationships, a bit of them actually, and things that, you know, like flings or whatever. But it was like I was always like, oh well, look at the tattooed rocker guy that, you know, he plays big shows, blah 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 blah. And it was like they weren't actually in it for me. it was like, oh, well, there's a show involved and there's this that comes with it. And um, I just felt like, well, okay, well, you don't actually like me. You like the fact that I play, shows, good shows, because I've been very, very lucky to play with a lot of wonderful artists at a lot of really big festivals. And there was a point in time before I left the other band where, it was just years of that, being on the road, being in studio, being in these badass clubs and doing this, that, and the other. And, like, you would find people that would be like, oh my God, like, let's hang out. Like, I'm so interested, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, well, you don't actually care about who I am. You care about what comes with me. And it's like, that's not what I'm about. And I feel like I've had quite a number of those superficial relationships. And I mean, obviously, they never lasted, they never worked. Um, and that was just my way of dealing with that. I kind of had one last final situation like that. And I felt like I was just this toy that was, being messed with emotionally, like, oh, I'm here for you. But I was also being dangled in front of someone else. Like, well, look what's over here. If like I was the backup plan, but made to feel like I was the original plan. And that has happened more times than I would care to admit. But yeah, that's kind of where, that last straw situation. I just grabbed my acoustic guitar and I started playing, and it was the first time that from start to finish, I had the whole structure of the song. I had all the melodies, I had all the lyrics, and it was so funny. I brought it to my producer, Matt LaPlante, and he's like, bro, this is great. So good. But we're going to rewrite all these lyrics. Yeah, like I was so crushed because I was so proud of myself because me being a vocalist is new. It's not like I've had the last 20 years with vocals like I have with guitar. Like, dude, I can write you a guitar riff like right fucking now, just figuring something out. But like in terms of figuring out vocal melodies and everything, it's still almost still new territory for me, and I'm getting better as I do more, obviously. But I'm really glad that he did want to rewrite that, because I mean, we basically said what I wrote the first go round. It's just way more poetic and beautiful. It has, for me, a little more meaning. But we started thinking about Toy Story, and how the toys will come alive on the shelf when Andy's out the room, and that was how we incorporated that into the music video. But it was a really, really good experience writing that song, and it was just, I finally got to deal with some of those emotions that I had kept in for a really long time.
She keeps me on her bedroom shelf. She only takes me out to play. She always calls me her favorite toy, and then she puts me back away. I'm just another novelty. That's all I'll ever
You have a couple special guests on the album.
Yes, I have some awesome, amazing guests. I mean, honestly, the whole album is basically special guests if you really think about it. Because I had two different bass players, Tim Krukowski, formerly of Sponge, um, and James Laskew from formerly of Wilson, now of New Monarch. And then Dave Coughlin, who is now the current drummer of Sponge, he did all the drums. So I really had an all-star studio band. But the very, very special guests, we will start with Mr. Paul McCoy from the band 12 Stones, and you probably know him from the song Broken, as well as the Evanescence tune Bring Me to Life. He was the male vocalist. And 12 Stones was a band that was around Mandeville, Louisiana, and I was over in Gulfport, Biloxi, Mississippi, and that's like 45 minutes up the road. His drummer AJ was AJ Fantastic at 97.9 CPR, which is my hometown radio station in Gulfport. So like I got to grow up as these guys were getting big. They got their record deal with who was it? Wind Up Records. I can't believe I remember that. And Wind Up was huge for a while. It was Seether, Evanescence, Creed, Atom Ship, which is another local band from my area that did the thing, and then they just didn't do the thing. But 12 Stones got their deal, and I got to grow up watching that, and then watching them perform at the festivals that I was old enough to attend. Every time I saw them, I was just like, holy shit. And their second record too, like both of those records were just so good. And I remember meeting them at Bebop when I was like 14, and they were so nice. And then finally, as I was getting older, I started getting in the same circles as Paul, over in New Orleans, over in Biloxi, and we formed a friendship. And we did a lot of hanging out. And there was a point where I almost joined 12 Stones as their guitar player. So we were in talks with that at one point. So Paul and I have always kind of had a really cool connection with one another, and we've always wanted to do something musically together. And so I was writing World Apart. I had the verses written, we had all the music done, but I was like, what am I going to do on this chorus? And we were at that point to where everyone was just sitting around like wide-eyed, like, fuck, we were brain dead at that point. And then I was like, well, I've got an idea. Let me hit up Paul. And I was like, bro, I got this song. Do you want to write a chorus? Do you want to sing on it with me? And we can maybe do a duet. And he was like, fuck yes. And I think he went down to Skid Mills down in Tennessee, I believe it is. I forget where his studio is at. But he's done a lot of really great work over the years. And the first thing he sent me, I was like, yep, that's it. And it really encapsulated the entire message of what I was going for, because I was really fucking mad when I was writing those lyrics. And I was like, man, the verses are perfect, good, yes, but how do I drive it home? And then he knocked it out the park. So it was really cool that we finally got to be on a song together after just years and years of talking about it, on top of years of friendship, and just realizing that we genuinely like each other. So it was really cool to have Paul on that. And then the other amazingly special guest, and this one was really cool how I found her, but Miss Jenny Nord from the band Rave the Requiem out of Sweden. And I found her because I've already recorded the second Riding with Killers record. And I went to Gothenburg, Sweden, to Top Floor Studios with Jacob Herman, and I did vocal writing, melody writing, and lyric writing over there. We were there for a month. And while I was there, just in talking with Jacob, I was like, hey, man, like, you clearly know some really badass dudes, because he has produced In Flames, Vola, Dark Tranquility, Machine Head, Anthrax. He's done a lot of amazing stuff. Like he's got a gold record or two. So he probably knows what he's doing, just maybe. And I was like, look, man, like, do you know anybody that I could sit down and have a vocal lesson with? And so he was like, what about Jake from Amaranth? Which, if you're familiar with them, a huge Swedish metal band. And I was like, absolutely, I would love to sit down and work with someone of that caliber. And it was the original vocalist, Jake, which led to me doing a screaming lesson with the original screamer of Amaranth, Andy. And both of them are actually going to be on a new Writing with Killers tune on the second record, which is really badass because those guys haven't been on a song together in years. But I digress because I like to run off and dive headfirst into the weeds, ADHD. But through my vocal lesson with Jake, I ended up getting hooked up with networking wise because I didn't actually get to really meet her. But, you know, people saw that Jake and I were hanging out, and people in Sweden saw this as well. And they're like, who the fuck is this guy? So I started getting random follows from people in Sweden. And I noticed that you know, a couple of the Rave the Requiem people, including Jenny, was checking, you know, into who I was. And um like I looked on her page and I was like, holy shit, like this girl's badass. She's playing like huge, you know, festivals in Europe. And I was like, who the fuck is her band? And the first song I heard was called Ophelia, which you should absolutely go listen to. Like, and it blew me the fuck away. Like, and they've got a male clean vocalist, a male screamer, and a female vocalist. It's almost kind of like an Amaranth, but it's vastly different from what Amaranth does. Um, but I was so, oh God, what's the right word? I was enamored, I guess, with that song, with her voice, with the whole band. Like I was so taken with their performances and the music that they wrote, and just like her voice really really spoke to me. And it kind of has like a Christina Scavia vibe, you know, but Swedish, you know. That's just kind of where my mind went when I heard her voice. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I fucking love your band. And we kind of started a friendship from there. And then we just started being like, man, like, wouldn't it be cool to collaborate at some point and, you know, see what we could figure out. And back in the States, Matt and I were talking, and he had brought this up a while back. But for In Silence, we had the song done, but we were like, it's missing something. And he was like, we should get a female vocalist. And we were looking at a couple of different people, and I wasn't really sold. And then whenever Jenny and I started figuring our friendship out, then I hit her up and I was like, hey, look, I know we were talking about this. Like, would you want to listen to this song? I think your voice would be perfect for it. And she spent a weekend with it. And when it came back and we mixed it all together, it was like, oh my God, this is perfection. So that I loved how that whole thing turned out, man. And eventually, she and I have been talking further about this. I'm either going to go back to Sweden, which I think probably needs to be what happens because I miss Gothenburg, I miss my Swedish family, I miss everybody over there. But we want to shoot like we want to do a video together, but not like, all right, I'm holding a guitar and there's a band. Like we want to do like a storyboard, and I've got a very cool vision in my head of what I want this to turn into. But I really think that if we got to make it a visual piece of art, it's going to make that song even better than it already is. But that's one of my favorite songs on the record too, is In Silence. Like that one just came out, it's different, you know, it's just different.
Okay. What made you pick a Nine Inch Nails cover?
I am such a fanboy of Nine Inch Nails. I love that band. And when I heard that song for the first time, like I was like, oh my God, someone has captured exactly how I feel. about life, about love, about my current situation, about like that was just that song was and still is so powerful to me. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but like you can trap yourself on a loop of every day is exactly the same, and it's daunting and beautiful at the same time. But like that'll put you in a really depressed headspace, you know, because you'll start thinking about some things and it makes you realize what the fuck is happening in your world. So when I was thinking about what song I wanted to do, I was like, man, that's how cool would it be to make it into more of a rock song versus, you know, electronica and like all your, you know, programming drums and synthy stuff that Trent does. And it was really cool to sit in his essentially sit in his head and, you know, track the tune. But that song has just meant so much to me over the years. And if I'm gonna cover a song and I'm gonna spend time in a studio, um, to remake something like that, I want it to be something that hits me on not just a personal level but a spiritual level as well. Like I don't want to just do a cover song to, oh my god, maybe people will like me. Like I want to do something that means something to me, and that out of the whole catalog was the one that just so.
Okay. What do you got planned for this year?
So it's gonna be a wild year. So as of right now, Riding with Killers has about 4 shows on the books. Got some irons in the fire for a couple of others, including a potential run with Discrepancies. We're starting to figure out a little 3-day run in the summer with those guys, and if you've never heard of them, they're so badass. Hands Up is an anthem. Those guys are going to be huge. So basically, working on adding more shows to the roster. Taproot goes back on tour starting next month, and I'm the guitar player of that band as well. So we're going to be doing all the Danny Wimmer festivals this summer, and you know we've got about 17 shows on deck for that. And back to Riding with Killers, though, the biggest thing is we just had our single Hostility go to rock radio this last week. And, you know, we're going to start pushing that really hard this year, seeing what noise we can make on a shoestring budget, see if our songs are worth a shit. But we've had a couple of FM stations out in like I want to say Illinois. I think there was, or maybe there was Iowa, Minnesota, New York, a couple of others that have already added the song in rotation. So that's really the big one that's on deck right now is promoting Hostility at rock radio. Um, we've got a music video that we are holding on to for the song DNA that I'm really excited to put out there. We shot that with Jason Arntz at Revo Media in Grand Rapids, and we had a really good time with that one. Like it's another story based video, not just a performance. So I'm really stoked to put that out there. Um, Probably shoot a couple more music videos this year, and just start hitting the road and going to these markets that are starting to pick up the single. So playing a lot of shows and just continuing to expand our market outside of Michigan and as far as you know we can go within our means and start creating that route to touring and you know eventually getting overseas to Europe and working on all of that.
Where can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram?
Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. We're on all the major platforms. Every online or digital outlet for music you can find us on. So we're all you got to do is type us in Google and you'll find us.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Again, just to push, please go request Hostility at your local rock station. And we'll see you guys on the road soon, man. But Randy, thanks so much for inviting me to come hang out and talk. I had a blast, and hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime.